Crazy.
You know, and it's no small feat because they're all back to back weekly.
Back to back to back.
Actually, does this? It's 52 weeks in a year, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Damn. Oh, we at half.
yeah, the
We at
halfway
half.
mark.
Wow.
So this is going to be a special episode.
Man, it's a half birthday. Half
Man,
birthday episode.
yep. Here, episode 26 of the Block to Block podcast, the best podcast in the world for all things Web3. Here we break down the technology, what's going on in the market, and the ways in which you can benefit. I am NFT and Jai.
And I am Web3 Wayne.
And over here, the talk is different.
Always, always. So different. We got to remind you, if you lose your cheese, cheddar, mozzarella, provolone, yes, we are talking your cold hard cash that's not so cold and not so hard anymore. But still, if you lose your money, that is not on us, because this podcast is for informational purposes only. By no means will we be liable for you losing your money. So please, 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 we stress this at the beginning of every episode. Consult a financial advisor or any other professional who can give you financial advice. And with that, let's get to it.
Let's get to it. But yeah, I just made that realization today. Like, we've been doing this podcast for 6 months now, 26 weeks. It doesn't feel like it,
You
right?
sure it's 2 months?
I mean, it's 52 weeks in a year, and this is
Right,
episode 26. So
right. And we
that
do
means,
it every week.
yeah. So,
Yeah, we even did Thanksgiving and Christmas and
mhm,
New Year's. Right,
mhm.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's been half a year. We gotta clap it up for that.
Dang, yeah. Woo. Shout
Whew.
out. And shout out to the people that's been rocking with us throughout this time, man. What I'm saying, 30 views we getting right now. We appreciate you guys rocking with us, man. We giving y'all this free game, Web3 game. But a lot of times when you're giving out free game, people just choose not to listen in, choose not to take that in, and you know what I'm saying? So um, we appreciate y'all. We appreciate y'all. And we appreciate you that come back and watch this episode in a few weeks. I need to catch up on my Block to Block peeps. We
Mhm.
appreciate y'all too. People who are watching us for the first time, shout out to y'all. Definitely keep rocking with us. Like Mamadou said, this every week. We got something special next week. We got something special the week after that. And man, don't get me started on March because we'll go crazy in that month too. So
Listen, I'm gonna drop a clue for y'all for like what's so special next week. I'm gonna say two terms, but what and in it, we crossed the pond, baby. That's all I'm gonna say.
oh man. Oh man, you're gonna get us canceled by England. All of England. It's gonna be
How?
like, nah, this is
I
not what's
like
happening.
UK drill.
This is not what's happening. Not what's happening.
I watch my UK shows. I watch Ghost, Stat,
Uh,
Let's Flats,
uh,
all Man Like Mobeen. I watch a lot of these shows, man. I got love to my UK or London people.
shout out, shout out, shout out, shout out. Nah, for sure, for sure. And with that too, I think it's only fair we let the people know, give some updates and some news of upcoming events and what we got going on. So for starters, our paint and sip event that was supposed to go on this Saturday, February 18th, has now been postponed due to unforeseen circumstances. We know y'all were excited about it. Anybody who cop tickets, best believe we're gonna make sure to communicate out and make you guys whole. And out there in April 8th, we
Mm,
will be rescheduling the paint and sip. We were excited to bring it to you guys this month, but again, we had to push it back,
mhm,
and we were saddened to do so, but we are excited to get something in front of the people in April. Also, just want to make note: next week is
mhm.
the week of the Investor Connect that we'll be hosting out in Philly at the CAC. We are very excited about this. Wait, say it again.
CIC.
CIC, excuse me, the CIC. We have some great panelists. Definitely check it out. The link will be in the Eventbrite. The Eventbrite link will be in the description below. Definitely go ahead and get your tickets. Tickets are free. Go
Mm,
ahead and get your tickets. The tickets are going fast, so we want to make sure you secure your spot today.
right. And shout out to Bison Venture Partners. They're the
Yes.
ones that we're co-organizing this event with.
Yes.
Gary, Alex, and B. They're an amazing team, just doing great work over there.
Can't stress that enough. Shout out to BVP Bison Venture Partners. They have been great. Excited, man. Excited to get out to Philly and meet the guys in person, man. I feel like it's kind of been like that for our events. You know, we
Oh,
spend some time planning and then we execute on the event and we finally meet everybody in person and it's a party. You know what I'm saying? So excited
right.
to get
Gary's tall, by the way. That brother's tall.
Oh, really?
He makes me look short. I'm not even gonna lie.
What?
Yeah, he's a tall dude. Shout out to
He
Gary.
makes, he makes you look short?
Yeah,
That's
which
crazy.
is hard to do.
That's
So
crazy. Okay. Okay. Looking well, yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay.
don't be shook.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. But before we even get into the show, a special shout out to Brittany Jenkins, the
Yes.
co-founder and CEO of We Are Tech. If
Yes.
you don't know, she was a guest on the show last week on episode 25. And she just really talked about her journey in building an ed tech company that's based in Web3. So many gems in there. And we wanted just to take a few moments just to like highlight some of the big takeaways from that video and encourage you to watch it because you know, Brittany's dope. Like she's very knowledgeable about her space and is
Yes.
super passionate. So there's so much you can gain from that session.
No, for sure. I mean, I sadly I wasn't able to join last week, so it was Mama doing Brittany, but I was tuned in watching, and man, she just came with the gems, especially talking about her time. The first time she, founded a business, and
Mhm.
her, and that was during college. If you didn't see last episode, and she's talked about so many gems, and it that company didn't necessarily go as she would want it to, right? But she learned so much, and I think one of the big things um, that she brought up is something that I've heard before in a different way, but um, the way that I've heard it is ABS,
Mhm.
always be selling.
Right.
But with her, I think in the startup world we can say ABP, always be pitching,
Mhm.
right? And it's weird to say, but as you go out into the world, that's really, most of your job is to pitch people on what you're doing, and really, pitching them on the vision and getting them to buy into what you're doing. So I thought, that was a big gem that she dropped, and so much more, just about how she approaches teaching and
Mhm.
engaging students and engaging people. Man, I mean, I was like, man, I might need to join this platform. I don't know, like this is dope. So yeah, man, great episode. Shout out to Mamadou for being a dope facilitator. Just asking the right questions, and just putting on a great episode, man. So kudos to you as well.
Appreciate it. I mean, the job's easy when you have just phenomenal guests, which we have been having thus far. Like
Okay.
everybody is just their own master within their trade, and that's one thing I really want to highlight with Brittany was just the amount of time she took to master her craft. And she even says she's still learning and she's still working on her own development. With her first venture, after that she stopped doing that, she purposely worked at companies like Facebook or Meta today and like different types of coding organizations to really hone her own skill set. And now she has this really dope digital literacy mission that she's doing to ensure the next generation becomes digitally efficient. Like And I really liked how she broke down the 3 levels of digital literacy as well. Like there's being digitally literate, meaning you know what the technology is and you know how to use it, such as I know how to use a computer and go to Google to buy something from Timbuktu, or
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
or you're at the other side of the spectrum in which you know how to actually you're at the level in which you can actually build the technology, right? So shout out to Sean from the Seven Streams, right? Like somebody like him who's able to like make code and build out applications. But then there's that middle ground in which you have digital efficacy, in which you have the confidence in yourself. Like you know how to use technology. You may not necessarily be at the level in which you're building with this technology, but you have that confidence that you know you can like learn the skill set. So you can go out there and use the technology to your own desire. And that really resonated with me as I was hearing that because that's really the whole ethos of this podcast.
Yeah,
Right. Every episode we say we're bringing out the technology, what's going on in the market, and ways in which you can benefit. Because we want you, the user, to be able to use these different types of Web3 technology to unlock your true passion, your true vision, right? So that's why we have people on like Jay Gaudet on episode 21 who talked about developing real estate in the metaverse. And then we have Brittany who's talking about like the educational component as well. And we have many more guests coming down the way who are just doing so many phenomenal things within Web3. And that's what we really wanted to get across, that you can use this technology and you can use it in order to accomplish whatever it is that you envision for yourself. So,
yep, yep. No, absolutely, absolutely. And to add to that, man, it's the tech world seems a lot scarier than it actually is, right?
mhm,
You hear about these companies like a Facebook, you know, or Meta, right? You hear about a Meta or a Tesla or whoever it may be, right? And these big tech companies, and you think, wow, like I'm not on that level. I'm not I'm not this tech person, this, that, and the third. You get into a lot of these jobs, man, and half of the job is writing, half of the job is communication.
mhm,
Even coding, like that seems like there are a lot of technical nuances that you have to kind of understand, sure. But I would say probably about 90% of coding is just like understanding logic. If this happens, what is the result of that, right? If I click this button, what should happen from that? um and so, again, it seems like this big scary place. And I think this was kind of Brittany's point, is that I think a lot of times people struggle to get into it because they don't try to get into it in places that really they have interest or passion in, right? Like
mhm,
she started in music because that was, where she wanted to make impact, and that was something that was, kind of near and dear to her heart. So that got
mhm.
her in the door, and that gave her the motivation and the wherewithal to be interested long enough to learn a new skill. And then she
Right.
could transfer that skill to anything, right? She can go and code for Meta, and that might not be what she is ultimately interested in, but she's now able to apply what she knows there. So again, great lessons. If you didn't watch that episode, please go back and watch that episode, because
Mhm.
yeah, that was a great episode. I learned a lot.
I did too. And make sure you watch that episode. And more importantly, that you like, comment, subscribe, and share with all your loved ones. Don't be
Yes,
selfish.
come on,
Share the wealth.
come on.
But
Yes.
man, with that, I guess we can just really get into what's going on in the market this week. There's a lot of activity. And hopefully you guys will learn about this new area as well within or newer area of Web3. Right. So kicking us off, I want to talk about some comments made by Alexei Chardrin, who is the CEO of EverCity. And he really talked about how blockchain and Web3 was the major target point at the World Economic Forum that happened, a little bit earlier this year. And, Evercity, the company that he founded, is a blockchain platform that focuses on measuring impact and investment within the green or sustainability areas, right? And they're really focused on making sure that they're able to finance projects and innovations that are needed to attain the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So, if you're not familiar, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or the UN SDGs, are really focused on ensuring that we as a planet, like all the countries within the UN, are on one accord when it comes to making sure that we have more sustainable communities and countries, right? So things such as like climate change, making sure that we're using resources accordingly, everything else of that nature. And so, in his comments, he spoke about like how, Web3 technology was a major talking point within the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, and how there's like many ways in which like blockchain could be used to help ensure that we're being more sustainable. So, for example, things such as tokenizing carbon credits, right? And if you don't know what a carbon credit is, it's just like a permit that's issued by like public institutions or governments to private companies who usually emit like large amounts of CO2. And it's just a permit that says, hey, you have the ability to emit this amount of carbon waste into the atmosphere, if you will. Anything over that, you get penalized with like financial penalties and what have you. And so what happens is within the Web2 context, these private companies, they kind of like they kind of centralize a lot of these carbon credits. They're buying them up or they're selling them off as well. And it's a way in like which really like the bigger companies are able to use it, but not more so the smaller enterprises. Yeah. But like with Web3 technology, what can happen is, and what has happened in the past is a lot of these become tokenized, meaning they become like NFTs, right? And anybody had the ability to really acquire this NFT for these carbon credits in order to, be in line with these sustainability goals, right? And then there's like companies like Guardian who are focused on that, and really he in his comments mentioned like ReFi, right? So in Web3 we heard a whole bunch about DeFi, right? Decentralized finance. But ReFi is regenerative finance, right? Which is like the financial system that prioritizes the health and resilience of ecosystems, communities, and planet over financial gain. And so what we're seeing with this era of blockchain technology is ReFi is starting to get like a big surge in interest and activity. Now, right now, there's still a lot of regulation and just uncertainty when it comes from like the governmental level. And that's globally, right? We see that here in the US, we see that in other countries. So ReFi is still kind of combating this environment, if you will. But once we do get to a point where there's a lot more clarity from the governmental level, we can just see like how ReFi can really be a big theme within Web3. And I think it's really dope, right? Because as we mentioned in episode 3, Derek, we talked about the impact of crypto assets on the climate change, right? That was a report issued by the White House last year. And they talked about like how, proof of work systems like Bitcoin have like this huge negative impact on like the electrical grid and like the environment or whatever, or what have you. So to see that there's this area that focuses on specifically creating technologies and solutions that want to focus on ReFi, making sure that ecosystems are protected, that we're all aligned, and there's a lot more transparency in this system, and it's a lot more open. That's really promising to see. But I'll leave it there. What are your thoughts?
I love it. I love it. And I'm sure most of you don't know, but I worked at a public finance agency that focused on green infrastructure and investing in green projects and technologies and green housing. So I love hearing about this. Just want to add a little something to what you said about carbon credits, right? So it does allow for and kind of tracks how much carbon emissions that companies are able to output. But basically, what those carbon credits do is it's essentially uh, saying, hey, you've invested money into this green project. So, as a result, you can emit however much more carbon emissions, right? So it kind of is a way for those companies and the government to track the offsetting of carbon output, right? So when companies talk about their, net zero emissions and stuff like that, it's not meaning that they don't emit carbon, right? But a lot of times that they're investing in, these technologies, programs, infrastructure upgrades to offset their carbon emissions, whether that's like some type of garden that they're putting around their facilities that they
Or
didn't
plant a
have
tree for
before.
every order that you make, or
Right. So I think it's dope that we're kind of bringing Web3 technology into this, and especially with the refi, where it sounds like there is some thought around how can we expand this access to consumers, right? How can we, through this new technology, have it to where kind of consumers can get into this green technology game, this sustainability game, and really boost it, right? That those are things that I think a lot of people care about, and another way. I mean, it's finance, right? So it's another way to make money while also helping to save the planet a little bit. So
exactly.
I think it's dope, man. Something I didn't know about. So I'll definitely say, this is something that is new to me and is dope to kind of hear about. Heard some inklings of it when I was in my previous role, but kind of hearing it come to life is really cool.
And that's why it's important to always watch Block to Block, because you get introduced to these topics, right?
And
But
like, comment, subscribe, share with your people. You know what I'm saying? Like,
mhm,
repost a clip or two. Make sure you're giving credit to the creators. All that good jazz.
all that good jazz, man. But yeah, the one last thing I'll say about this, I said it earlier, but just really the implication of having this all tracked within whatever blockchain network this gets tracked upon, right? Like we, the consumers, especially those of us who may like invest in stocks or just want to patronize companies similar to like a Patagonia, like companies who care about sustainability, we're able to like not just read, the annual reports they put out, but we can actually go within these blockchain networks and see, okay, these are like the instances or like the transactions that you made in terms of like your carbon output. Is all here on this digital ledger that I have access to at any given moment. So it's a way in which we can really hold these companies accountable at a level we haven't been able to do so before.
Yeah, and I mean, I see it also as a expansive opportunity for people who are interested in green tech and
Mm,
the
you can join
uh,
a project.
green entrepreneurship, if you will, right? Like that carbon credit community is something that's only going to grow. It's a way to get investment, right? Again, going back to the finance aspect of it. If you haven't heard about carbon credits, look into it. If you haven't heard of ReFi, look into it. Although this seems to be something that's mainly focused on those bigger companies, and how people can kind of track some of those things. There may be opportunities coming down the line, or an opportunity for you to create something that creates opportunities for businesses that are looking for those type of investments, right? So definitely a lot of opportunity there, a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's what I have to say on that topic. But
Okay.
you had something you
Okay.
want to tell us on a, still on this theme of like global, right?
Right. Yeah, man. I mean, let's just get into it. Let's just get into it. There's no way to do it, but just rip the band. Why am I saying this like it's a bad thing? Nah, but we want to just keep you all updated on what's going on in the Web3 world, especially when it comes to financing, when it comes to securing funding, and just kind of giving you the trends and what we're seeing right now is Abu Dhabi, the latest to hit the waves and let us know that Web3 is not dead, not yet. So Abu Dhabi is starting a $2 billion initiative to back Web3 startups. So Hub 71, which is Abu Dhabi's tech ecosystem, has started a $2 billion initiative backing those Web3 and blockchain technology startups in the MENA region. Especially getting those startups and companies to move to Abu Dhabi and really bolster up its ecosystem. So it's really dope to hear, right, that Abu Dhabi and their tech ecosystem, as well as First Abu Dhabi Bank or Fab, right, they are making a bet on blockchain technology and its startups. And I think this is really interesting right now to watch out for, right? Because we see the U.S. right now is preparing to crack down on Web3, crypto, what have you. There's been a lot of negative spotlight on what's going on, while Abu Dhabi is looking for ways to support entrepreneurs who are building with this new technology. And for this initiative, really the hope is to provide Web3 startups with access to a range of programs and initiatives, which is dope, right? And they're hoping to provide access to corporate, government, and investment partners in both global markets and the UAE, right? And so I think right now a lot of companies need a helping hand when it comes to being a Web3 startup. We're seeing already a lot of companies starting to feel the pressures and feel some of the pain of this recession, bear market environment where the funding just isn't there anymore, right? So money was being thrown like it had no value whatsoever for I would say 3 to 4 years, right? We just seen just an influx of capital, especially towards Web3 companies, and that's just not the case anymore. And so unless you were being a prudent business owner, as we've seen from recent developments, that doesn't seem to be the case. And, it's not all at the fault of, those owners or founders, and executive teams. It was kind of the environment. Hey, we're putting this money out there, spend the money, make sure you're growing your business, getting new employees, um, you know, focusing on user acquisition. But those good times don't last, just like the bad times, and so we reached a dip, right? And one thing to point out, right, is we're kind of moving from this wild west stage of the startup world, uh, where now it's more of a what's the word I'm looking for here? It's like the not this wild west stage, but definitely a stage where these companies kind of have to take a step back, right? So a lot of companies will fall during this time simply because they don't have enough in the tank to last through
Mhm.
those tough times, right? But we see the UAE is betting on that if their companies that are in their ecosystem can outlast competitors in other markets, they can really be the leading economy when it comes to Web3 technology, and very much so be one of the first one of the first economies to bounce back once the global economy rebounds, right? And I love it. It really is a long term play. It really is the UAE or Abu Dhabi government coming in and saying this is really a time for opportunity, a time for growth, and putting their chips in. So two things stick out from what they're trying to provide when it comes to their programs and initiatives, as well as the financing aspect. So one is state of the art blockchain and virtual asset infrastructure, and the other is a progressive regulatory environment.
Hmm.
So the state of art blockchain and virtual asset infrastructure, that's something that's been an issue and has plagued the Web3 community from the jump, right? And even more so in recent years as the focus has shifted to adoption and kind of getting over that hump, right? That we call scalability. So how can we onboard more people? How can this user experience be better? You're competing against other Web2 companies that have had time to really cater their product so that users can have a really, really easy interaction with those products. And that's just not the case when it comes to Web3, especially with the focus being, more so on security and decentralization. Some of these concepts really were to the sacrifice of user experience. So I think, by them focusing on that state of the art, infrastructure, it really gives those companies a leg up to say, hey, we can figure out how to move past. How can we make this thing, more? Or how do we make this thing sustainable, right? And they can start focusing on, hey, how can we make this more user friendly? How can we get people to like using our product, which is huge, which is really huge. And then the second part being the regulatory environment. That is a big component to this equation. And it's really more than anything just because other countries are cracking down right now, right? And we can't blame them, right? We can't blame those countries for saying, hey, we weren't really too focused on this crypto Web3 NFT thing, but now a lot of people are losing money, especially institutional investors. They're losing money, right? And so you see kind of the classic trap of overreaction, right? Overregulation, um, too much legislation being put out there, or too hard of legislation being put out there, and you're seeing a country like UAE, or a city like Abu Dhabi say, "Hey, this is not a time for us to, scare people away from this technology, but more so lean into it." So we'll keep a pulse on what's going on out there in the UAE and their strategy. I would say this is very on brand for their country. We see a lot of businessmen talk highly of the country and their business regulations and laws. So definitely gonna keep an eye out on UAE, Hub 71, and that whole fund, as well as the businesses that come through there, right? Because we're probably going to see a lot of businesses that'll be on the forefront of the Web3 landscape come from this program and really this push from Abu Dhabi. Um, so yeah, that's my thoughts on Abu Dhabi putting that 2 billion on the
Hmm.
table for Web3 startups. What's your thoughts, Mamadou?
First and foremost, to all those who are wondering, if you want us to keep a really good post of the situation, Hub 71, cut the check.
Cut
Flies
the
out to Bobby.
check.
Flies out
Look,
to Bobby. We'll keep a great post of the situation.
we'll pull up. We'll pull up.
We'll pull up.
We don't
Yeah,
even need the whole 2 bill. You know what I'm saying? You give us, a
listen,
couple mil. Psh,
Timbuktu may be out in Abu Dhabi.
you know what I'm saying? Water in the wine. Water in the wine.
I'm just saying, but you know, all jokes aside, unless someone seriously wants to cut the check, then we're not joking. That aside,
Shameless plug. Shameless plug.
shameless plug. That aside, I think this is great. It's during like times where things are recessionary and there's like huge dips, it's a great time in which you can like really hedge your bet. Being okay, these are the times in which you are able to like get buy into great companies at great discounts, and really ride the wave back up. Because if the recession lasts, what, on average 18 months or so, within like roughly 2 years from now, the Hub 71 ecosystem can be in a great position, right? If they bet on the right companies who are able to make an impact, find product market fit, get great traction, and more importantly, make revenue, they can be in a position where we have companies of true value with amazing valuations and great impact within that whole ecosystem. And it's very on brand, like you said, when you look at the history of the UAE, right? The United Arab Emirates, you have all these emirs, or like the leaders of that region, who work together in order to combine resources and to make that region of the world very attractive to just foreign direct investment. Over years, the last couple of years, I feel as though every major business personnel that we know who's an influencer, at least, is going over to Abu Dhabi to do legit business. So I think, like you said, it is a positive signal within that regional world. And it just goes to show that Web3 is just not no US phenomenon. Like, it's global. And there's, even if, let's say, your country may not have the best regulatory environment for your Web3 project, you can go to an ecosystem like Abu Dhabi and really strive there. So, yeah, I think that was a great take, Derek.
For sure. For sure. Hey, man. Couldn't have said it better myself. Cut the check.
Man, so, but with that, as we talk about just these startups, though, kind of on the other side of the spectrum, let's talk about crypto startups. Crypto startups, by and large, have been postponing the launch of their tokens or cryptocurrency projects because it's really a direct effect of the Alameda research contagion that happened last November. So, what does all of this mean, right? As we know, the crypto market has been struggling all last year, and it really imploded when the whole FTX and Alameda scandal and implosion occurred. We're not going to cover that right now, but feel free to watch like episode 12 and 13 because we covered it over there. And so right now, a lot of startups who specialize in having like cryptocurrencies or tokens are not launching their coins, even though right now Bitcoin and Ethereum has started to surge up in price again. So Coin Market Cap, which is a huge research website when it comes to all things related to like crypto, NFTs, and just Web3 activity, they reported that new coin applications fell throughout 2022. Last year in Q1, there were like 10,264 applications to have, these cryptocurrencies listed on these exchanges, and that fell to 6,350 in Q4 of last year. And especially with all that has been going on with like regulatory fears, the recession, people's negative attitude towards cryptocurrency, year to date, we've only seen 3,000 applications for having coins listed. And how does Alameda fall into this? So Alameda, it is one of the, or was one of the largest market makers within the crypto space. And if you're not sure what a market maker is, they're essentially an institution that provides liquidity or capital to securities or tradable assets. So in this case, crypto. And Alameda was, famous for providing billions of dollars worth of capital towards some large cap and small cap um, token projects. And so with Alameda being out of the picture, there's this huge gap when it comes to funding because there's only a handful of market makers altogether within crypto. There's a few: Wintermute, Amber Group, B2C2, Genesis, Cumberland, and it used to be Alameda as well. And all of these companies have been struggling financially or have been feeling the impact of the recession, I should say, of this crypto winter. When we look at their balance sheets, Cumberland, they had 222 million in early December. It has now dropped to 75 million. Wintermute, they had 1.7 billion last February. which is now 122 million. Amber Group, and they've been going through it. They dropped their sponsorship deal with Chelsea, which is like the UK football club over there. Their sponsorship deal was like 25 mil. They've been laying off a lot of employees, and their balance sheet went from 350 million to 92 million. So
Soccer
we're
for Americans.
soccer for Americans, but Block to Block is a global show, even though we have a lot of American-based stories, but nonetheless.
Nonetheless, I mean,
And
we went global today, baby. We went
in
global.
other
Abu
episodes, we
Dhabi,
go global,
Chelsea. We global today.
right? Web3 is everywhere, but nonetheless, these market makers have been having huge financial pressures that they've been suffering because of crypto winners and because of just this regulatory environment, a recessionary environment, and attitude towards crypto. And then so as we see, like there's only a few of them in terms of market makers. They're all seeing huge reductions in their balance sheets, and Alameda is out the picture. And so it doesn't create the environment that is conducive nor positive for a startup that wants to launch their own cryptocurrency. Now it's just not really the best time to do so. Now, you could probably there's like different figures within the space, like CEOs who recommend personally. They say wait like 6 months from now, 6 to 8 months, if you will, but not really right now. So overall, what's the big lesson from all of this? If you're somebody who wants to launch your own cryptocurrency project, we're not going to say necessarily don't do it right now, but really pay attention to the environment and make that decision. Like if we're seeing like less liquidity in the environment, this negative attitude, invest fear in terms of investors. So
Yeah,
ask yourself, are those the conditions in which you want to launch in? Right. And it just goes to show that whenever it comes to these spaces, whether it's crypto or what have you, you got to see who the big players are and how those big players or market makers really faring. If they're in an environment in which they're doing well and they have buku money on the balance sheets, then hey, it's all good. But in this situation, that's not the case. And we've been seeing the impact of that overall. But yeah, that's really my take on that story. You have anything you wanted to add?
yeah, man. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. What I'll add to the piece about if you're thinking about launching a crypto, anything like that, you just have to be really careful, right? You have to really take time to truly craft your story around your crypto. Really understand the regulation that's coming. I think that's a big piece of why people are really hesitant to get into, especially anything new when it comes to
Right.
crypto, is because there's no clear outline or clear guideline on, you know, how that will be regulated, which can cause right a loss of money. And so sometimes I think that the environment calls for patience,
Yep.
right? Environment calls for um, you to stop for a moment, reassess, and just again find creative ways to get your messaging out there, build up hype, build up momentum, but still act in a way that is prudent as a business owner and somebody who's in the Web3 space.
Absolutely. Perfect summation, Web3 Wayne.
Well, I have a great co-host in NFT and Jai, so it's just easy to just piggyback. You do all the work, and I just piggyback off of you. So you know, and of course, I would be remiss if I didn't have my quick take for today. What are we gonna talk about? What are we gonna talk about? What are we gonna talk about? Today we're gonna cover Ordinals. And if you don't know what that is, it is an NFT project that has been minted to the Bitcoin blockchain. Yes, you heard it right. Yes, you heard it right. And of course, this is not the first project that we've seen minted on the Bitcoin blockchain, but it surely isn't something that we see very often. So we did speak about Counterparty in one of our previous episodes. There was also a project called Stacks, and both of those projects were launched on the Bitcoin network as NFT projects on that blockchain. But what really distinguishes Ordinals from those earlier projects is that those digital assets are inscribed directly onto Satoshis, right? If you don't know what a Satoshi is, it's basically cents in Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they've done so without needing a side chain or token.
Mm.
So that's really really big. There's a lot of big implications that comes with this feat, if you will, that Arnos has kind of conquered with the Bitcoin blockchain. It could mean more NFTs coming to the Bitcoin blockchain network, which would be crazy. And I mean, honestly, they've seen a lot of success with their project. So 76,000 NFTs were minted to the Bitcoin network. Yes, you heard it right. 76,000. Really over 76,000.
Right.
Right. And really no signs of slowing down. Why? I mean, you never know. Right. I we can always point to some things that we think may be influencing this. One, there's still some appetite for NFTs, right? But if you are somebody that is versed in NFTs, that has kind of been around for a while, you're an investor, you understand the crypto market, and you understand that right now is a great time to get into Bitcoin, right? In general. And what better way to do that than to have some image as well that represents your Bitcoin investment? Right. So we'll see over, I would probably say over the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to see that price of Bitcoin go back up. That is not a financial projection, but a very, very bad, uh, well, it is financial projection, but not financial advice.
Mm.
And I would say probably a bad financial projection, but we're going to put it out there because we don't care. It's a quick take, and that's what we do. And so with that, there's been some investment in Ordinals, um, which is really cool to see, right? It's dope to see that spike back in those NFTs, that technology is still being used out there. But really, Bitcoin NFTs, it may be having a moment right now, but we must understand that technology or Bitcoin NFTs is really in its infancy, right?
Mm.
Especially when you compare it to an Ethereum or a Solana, which have had several years to perfect the whole minting, trading, and
Mm.
viewing process of those digital collectibles, right? And it's really, we'll see where it goes. We'll see how it matches up versus those other blockchains that were created for the sake of NFTs, right? With DApps in mind, decentralized applications. If you don't know what a DApp is, so those blockchains were created with NFTs in mind, and other utility uses for blockchain technology versus a Bitcoin, which was made to truly be the gold standard of cryptocurrency, right? For the fungibility of crypto. So again, very interested to see where it goes. We'll keep a post. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about it. I'm sure we're gonna hear things go down, and I'm sure we'll see um, some times where we see those cryptos and Bitcoin trending upwards, and we'll see more news around that. But something to keep an eye on, or no, definitely if you haven't, check it out. Of course, we're seeing clones of those popular NFT projects like the Crypto Punks and Bored Ape Yacht Club. move over to Ordinal. We seen a single Ordinal punk sell for 9.5 Bitcoin, nearly $215,000. I don't know why. I can't tell you why, but hey, this is what we're seeing. So with that, that's my quick take. And yeah, there we go.
9.5 Bitcoin.
There we go. Yeah,
Get
man.
that wallet. Somebody call addressable so we can find out who owns that wallet because they need to check.
You feel me? I'm over here trying to organize setups.
Listen, we're going to Abu Dhabi to keep a post on the ecosystem. But
Facts. Keep a post.
keep a post.
Keep a post.
Not a joke if you're going to write a check. But nonetheless, like that was dope. I think it's very interesting because really, let's first commemorate and shout out like the whole Bitcoin network, right? Like what started off as a solution to solve for like the double spend problem in the financial system and to allow people to have access to currency has really gave wave to a new wave of technologies that we didn't even think about before with blockchain.
Yeah.
And like the fact that it's kind of coming full circle in the sense of the first network is now starting to see some significant traction with NFTs. That's very interesting, very instrumental to highlight, especially like, okay, when it comes to just like the value of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin's number one. But when it comes to dApp ecosystems, Ethereum's number one when it comes to like creating dApps, NFTs, the whole kit and caboodle, right? What happens, and it's not going to happen overnight, it would be definitely long term, but what happens if Bitcoin not only is the number one crypto, but also the number one dApp ecosystem? And this is just like the wave for that. That's just something to think about.
Hey, I'll say this too. Innovation never dies.
Innovation never dies.
Never dies. So keep innovating.
Absolutely. Just something to think about. Yeah, 9.5 Bitcoin. Like that's that's pretty major right there.
Yeah. And Bitcoin is at its low, one of its low trends right now. So who knows where it goes from here? Not a bad investment in my eyes.
Absolutely. Not financial advice. Just our thoughts.
Yeah, very bad financial thoughts.
Please refer to the disclaimer. But with that, this was a really action-packed episode. A lot of great stories, a lot of great areas. Like really a global episode. Probably one of our most global episodes yet, I would say.
And perfect timing because it's happening next week.
Happening in it.
It's happening in it. Yeah, that's a very bad British accent, but it's happening, isn't it?
It's so funny that people from the UK or the actors can do pretty good American accents, like very believable.
And
But then
ours is just trash. Like
we just go on stereotypes like teas and crumpets.
shout
Like there's so many accents in the UK. Like
out to 21 Savage, man.
21.
And with that, we thank you all for joining us for episode 26, our half birthday episode of the Block to Block podcast. Shout out to NFT and Jai. I am Web3 Wayne.
Shout out to Web3 Wayne. This is from your boy NFT and Jai. Peace.